listening to a bit of a song called Me Lupita from Edmonton marimba-based band Sticks and Stone. This weekend, they're celebrating the release of their new album, Marimba Around the World. Joining us on the phone is band leader Stephen Stone. Hello.
Hi, Adrienne. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. So first off, maybe tell us a little bit about the marimba.
Well, the marimba, I sort of affectionately tell people, since the average person is not particularly familiar with it, I tell people it's kind of like the grand piano of xylophones. So it's, my version anyways, is quite a large instrument, and it's sort of a classical type of version that you would most often see in the back of, say, the Windspear with the Edmonton Symphony. However, there are a lot of different traditional versions from a lot of different parts of the world.
And so compared to a xylophone, how does it sound? Does it sound different?
Yeah, so there are technical tuning differences, but the marimba tends to have a bass range where the xylophone doesn't, and it tends to have a very warm and mellow sound, whereas the xylophone is described more as a bright sound.
Right. Now, Marimba Around the World has 15 songs, each from a different culture. Why is the marimba so culturally versatile?
Well, yeah, the marimba, it started most probably in northwestern Africa, and there are different versions across Africa, and then with the slave trade, it was then brought to Latin America, and there are a lot of different versions there across different cultures. But there's a lot of instruments that are similar, a lot of keyboard instruments in many parts of the world too, which are not directly related. Yeah, but so there's many similar types of instruments around the world also. And with this album, actually, I didn't limit myself specifically to marimba music. I started with marimba music, but then I started exploring what other types of folk music could we work with.
And interesting, I see here, the marimba is the national instrument of Guatemala?
Yeah, they're quite proud of that. So I've definitely met some Guatemalans who are very excited that I'm playing this here. They tend to not see a lot of people playing marimbas here, but it is very common in Guatemala.
Which culture's music was the most challenging to adapt to a marimba ensemble?
The most challenging to adapt? Well, I mean, it depends how you talk about adapting and what you're doing with it. So some of this music, we started by being very close to original forms of this music. And then in some ways, we also took some creative liberties and started thinking about, well, where could we go with this? And we started using the music as the original material as a starting point. So I think one of the most interesting ones we adapted anyways, there's an Iranian tune called Yare Jani, which is very well known, very well known in Iran, but you wouldn't really expect it to be on a marimba at all. So, I mean, I had to learn a few things there. So it's in a mode, a musical scale they call the Hijaz Makam. So learning a little bit about how that type of mode works and what's expected in that context is was a learning experience and really exciting. But then beyond the original material, we even wrote a whole bunch of new material as well too. So that's sort of a very different thing than you would expect from a marimba.
Now, the marimba isn't small. How much of a challenge is it to, take it from gig to gig?
Well, it's kind of a lifestyle, I would say. So most people think I'm a little bit crazy that I'm doing this. There's a reason you don't see it very often outside of the back of the Windspear. So my marimba is 230 pounds, and it's in 11 cases. And I usually budget an hour on each end for the setup and takedown. So an hour from home, then I get to the event, an hour to set it up. It can be done quicker, but depending on whether there's stairs or depending on what the situation is, I always want to make sure I have at least that hour on each end. So even if we only perform for 45 minutes, I could be moving my instrument for 4 hours that day.
Oh my goodness. But I imagine it captures a lot of attention when you're setting up and even taking down.
Yeah. Well, the attention we get from setting up and taking down is often as much as anything we're doing performing. It's kind of this construction work, which, so 11 cases. So it comes together, and it tends to surprise people. So, yeah.
Well, as, laborious as that task is, are you feeling like you've been missing that since COVID hit and, we've all been stuck at home?
Yeah, well, not really, because I've still been playing. So I know a lot of musicians have decided that it's challenging in these times, and they've decided to take a break from performing. But we've still been performing quite a bit. So we've had about 25 performances this summer, which is maybe not as much as I was performing in the past. But we've kind of been reinventing performances, and it's started from playing for family and friends, and then on my own patio and taking a stand there. But we've developed what I call physically distanced community concerts. So we've been bringing these to communities around Edmonton, and it's been fairly successful.
Oh, great. What do you have in store for the CD release on Saturday?
The plan has changed a few times with various concerns in the COVID situation. But what we have right now, I think, is pretty exciting. So right now, there's us. Our usual 3-person group is now a 5-person group. And that includes a tabla player from Nepal who lives in town. His name is Hijaz Makam, and he's pretty amazing. So it is pretty awesome to have tabla as a part of our group for all of these 15 songs, as well as a couple extra from Nepal we decided to include. And then we have a few other groups who are going to join us as opening acts. So we've got Chawacheen, which is a Northwest African Arabic group. And then we have Capoeira Edmonton, and they do sort of Brazilian samba. And then there's a group called HanBeat Samulnori. So they're Korean traditional percussion. And I actually used to play with them quite a bit. I actually lived in South Korea for a year and a half, and I taught English and learned a lot of their traditional drum and dance.
Very cool. Now we're going to listen to another one of the songs from Marimba Around the World. So tell us about A Place Like This.
So A Place Like This is an interesting song where it's actually not an old song like most of the tracks on the album. So this one is actually a newly composed song, and it was kind of with this intent by making something new, we can move forward and make progress. And so this was co-composed by Elk Island Public School teachers and Wilson Bearhead, who is Nakota of Wabaman First Nation. And he was working with Elk Island Public Schools and had this task of building a relationship with the students and the staff and incorporating FNMI considerations into the school system there. This was co-composed by them, by Wilson Bearhead and the Elk Island Public School music teachers. I happened to be in the right place at the right time to learn about it and asked permission for adapting it for my percussion ensemble. But it's written for, they've got versions for choir and they've got versions for wind ensemble. And it sort of tells a story. With the lyrics, with the versions that have lyrics, it's telling a story, English, French, and Nakota, of Treaty 6, of the land and our connection to it.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the release of the CD, and thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much, Adrienne.
Stephen Stone of the band Sticks and Stone from their new album Marimba Around the World. This is A Place Like This. And that was A Place Like This from local marimba band Sticks and Stone. They have a CD release show at the Ellerslie Rugby Park tomorrow.